What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So we're out here in the shop today, and I think this is part 3 on the scraper here, the Eversman 600 scraper. And I've got a little bit of primer on it, did some sanding on it. I started out trying to prime this thing outside, and it started raining, so I moved it inside, and got most of it primed. I like just a little bit. Did some sanding on it, and I need to spray a little bit more primer on it. I need to pull it back outside, but the rain is, the wind is blowing about 20 miles an hour. The rain has moved out, and it's the next day, but I can't really paint outside with the wind blowing 20 miles an hour, so probably going to wind up setting up my shop fan over here at the door to pull the fumes out, and just try to spray just a little bit at a time and let the fan pull it out before so the overspray won't get on everything inside. Of course, you have to be careful doing that as well, because it blows the overspray outside onto whatever's parked out there. But anyway, I'm using some high build primer on this, and just trying to fill in some of these rust pits a little bit. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. This thing is like 50 years old. You know, it's got rust pits in it, and that's the way it's going to be. Sure, you could spend enough time and put enough Bondo on it to, you know, make it better, and you could totally disassemble the whole thing, and that's what you want to do. We want to make it usable, preserve it, and make it look decent. And so that's what we're going to do. We're not going to worry about, you know, every little rust pit. This is not a car. So anyways, the bottom I'm not too worried about. I just you know, want to put some primer and some paint on it just to preserve it. Not worried about the rust pits. I've got the outer set of wheels and tires removed, so that I could get in here, and I put these on backwards so that it give me more room to get there. I did a little bit more work on this cutting edge here. This piece of flat bar that they got right here, it was cracked here and here, and I've welded that, and that was part of my bowing problem that I was having when this thing was warped. And I've got it a little straighter now. It's not perfect, but it's going to work. Anyway, I reinforced that with just a piece of angle I had over there, and a small piece of flat bar I put on the underside down there. So that's a little better than what it was in the previous video as well. I've got this old hydraulic cylinder. I just hooked that up on there so that I could hold this thing in the upright position here, in the dump position, and be able to paint it. And when I get through painting and everything, then I'll put the new cylinders on there that I actually built these mounts for, and my hose brackets and new hoses and everything. These are just some old hoses, so it don't matter if they get paint on them or whatever. As I say, just so I could set this thing up in the dump position. So anyway, that's how we're coming on it. So I've got to come along on the other side, pulling this apron back so I can get in front of it here, because this thing lays up against this pipe, and I want to be able to get these springs out as well, and I couldn't get them out beforehand, so I want to be able to get up in here as best as I can and get as much of it as I can. You know, I'm not going to be able to get every square inch of it, but I want to be able to get a bunch of it. So that's what I got going on there. I hope that doesn't slip off that pin. But that's got that pulled up. This bar here rides on that roller down there, and so that's where I pulled that up from. I got the springs out of there. I'm gonna paint the springs a different color than I'm painting the rest of it, and I'm gonna paint those to match the hydraulic cylinders, I believe. All right, guys, well, there she is. She's painted. I had to stretch the paint just a little bit. Maybe I don't find no bad bare spots. I had a gallon. I bought a new gallon, and I had a little bit of a piece of a gallon left over. That's New Cat Yellow, and so I thought that would be a good color to paint it. I removed those springs, and I flipped this apron back over the top, and you can get to those little wheels down here that I was wondering was greasable, little bearing things down there. It's actually not a bearing in there. I thought that there was a bearing in there, but there's not. It's just a shaft with a hardened steel race on it that turns when this apron opens up. And so anyway, when I had this apron flipped over, I just slid them off. There's nothing that holds them on other than they rub up against the apron here. And so I slid them off and put some grease in there. You can see down there where the grease is at when I let it back down. But gonna let that paint finish drying there. I didn't bother to paint the inside because I run out of paint, and well, I don't see spending almost 200 bucks for another gallon, and with the reducer and everything, the reducer and the hardener and everything, it's close to 200 bucks for a gallon of that paint that I'm using. So anyway, I don't see doing that just for it to wear off. So it don't look too bad. I painted the hubs here, just Rust-Oleum in a can black. Got a little bit of yellow on that one. I touch it back up again, I guess, but not too worried about it. Painted my pins over here in the floor that holds my cylinders on, waiting on them to dry, and waiting on the paint to dry pretty much, and then we'll put our hydraulic cylinders on there and put our new hoses on there and all our brackets and her hitch and all that good stuff, and she'll be just about ready to go, except for the tires and wheels, in which I've not bought anything for that yet. I'm not 100% sure what I'm doing there yet. I'm thinking on ordering some 16-inch wheels and going with a 16-inch tire setup. It's kind of what I'm leaning towards, but I hadn't done anything yet. So anyway, that's what she's looking like for now. Alright, so I've got all the hoses on there with the hydraulic cylinders, pins in, everything's greased. Should be ready to go, other than the tires and wheels that I haven't put on there yet. And I have not bolted the hitch in tightly yet. Them bolts there that I got are a little bit too long. When I went to Tractor Supply, I was wanting to get a 6-inch bolt. They didn't have a 6-inch bolt. They had a 5 and an 8. And so I got the 8, and they're a little bit long, but I still got that loose because I'm not sure what the height of my drawbar on my tractor will be, what this thing's gonna want to sit at. So got to deal with that. It doesn't look too bad. I'm not going to bother with painting the inside, as I say. I would have if I'd had more paint, but I ran out of paint cutting it close. So I think that's going to work. Next project is this drawbar over here on my tractor is not going to hold 6,000 something pounds that the tongue weight on that is going to have. And so I have got to figure out what to do with that. And I'm looking at some options. This drawbar here is a little wore anyway, but I'm looking at getting a wider drawbar, or making a wider drawbar out of a piece of this is nothing but 1.25 inch thick flat bar, 2.5 wide, with an 1.25 inch hole in it. And then these 2 holes here are for what they call a hammer strap, which we will have to buy or make. It's simply basically a piece that kind of looks like this. This is a trailer hitch, but for visual reference, the thing they call a hammer strap goes up there like that right there. It would bolt through those 2 holes, and then you drop a pin through this hole and that hole, and it goes through the hitch on our scraper over there, and it will work. And you could probably actually use this right here, because this is an 1.25 inch ball shank here, so you could actually use that because that's an 1.25 inch hole, and you could weld that on there right there, or bolt it on there, drill holes in it, bolt it, and it would probably work. But I'm gonna look and see what my options are. I mean, we can get a spacer here and put another flat piece up there. That'll work as well. But we're gonna have to increase the width of this drawbar here. These pins will come out right here, and I can put them in these outer holes, and we can put a lot wider piece of flat bar in here that'll make this over twice as strong. And if we need to taper it down on the other end back there for the bolt hole, we can, but I think we got enough space in there all the way through and then we can taper the end of it right here where it hooks up if we need to. But I can tell you that this thing's going to break off probably about right there. If you try to put 6,000 something pounds on it and the flexing and whatever, that thing is going to snap off of there. So I'm going to see what I can do to address that and get some measurements on these holes. Well, it really doesn't matter what those are. I just need a hammer strap with 1.25 inch hole in it that is enough height in between here for the hitch on that scraper to go in, and then put a pin through it. So I just measured, this is like a 2-inch hole spacing right there, and the one on the Ford over here has got 3 holes in it. That's supposed to be a little more universal. The camera's probably not picking up that very well at all, but it doesn't really matter about that if we're building a new drawbar anyway to be wider. So the hole spacing here is pretty irrelevant. I just need one with a clearance, as I say, and 1.25 inch hole in it, and I'll drill the holes in the new piece of flat bar, whatever it needs to be to match the hammer strap. Alright, so I've got a plan for the drawbar on the tractor over there. I've got some metal ordered to build one, and I don't know when it'll be in. It might be a couple of weeks, so I suppose I will put that in another video. I've got 2 tires here that I'd ordered. They came in today. I've already got the wheels in a couple of days ago, and I've got 2 tires here that I already had, and I've got them mounted on there on the wheels. So that's what that's going to look like. And I went with a 285 75 16 truck tire for a couple of reasons. One, I already had 2 of them in stock, and these was on the Duramax when I bought it. I replaced all 4 tires and wheels, so the tires are kind of old. I would not put these on a vehicle to drive down the road. They should work fine for this application. The other thing is, this is about the biggest tire that I could go with, because I couldn't go any wider than 11 inches, which is what a 285 is basically. You can see how close that is to rubbing right there. We got a little more clearance on this one here. Also, this thing here opens up or lays back whenever this dumps, and it comes out right here pretty close. So this is the widest tire I could go with, and you can't really find very much selection of tires that's taller than this, that's just not wider than this. We do have a little bit more clearance. We probably could have went a little bit bigger diameter if it wasn't for the width restriction there. Also, one thing I didn't notice until I was putting these tires on is these spindles. I'll show you on this one here. These spindles here are eccentric, and you see the spindle is off center here. I had noticed that, but what I didn't notice was they're not all the same. These 2 here are the same. Those 2 over there are set in a different position, and they've been in that position so long that they're rusting into place. And so I'm not going to be able to change that without, damaging it, heating it, whatnot, beating on it with a big hammer, and possibly even cutting it out and starting over. So anyway, we're not going to mess with it. It's only off about 300 thousandths or something is about what I measured from the top of here to the hub face here, or hub body. It's about 300 thousandths difference on this one versus here, and that is to account for different size tires if you were to run different size tire. But 300 thousandths in the width of this, I think we're going to be okay. It's just going to lean just a little bit, but I mean, you could change that little bit amount with air pressure. You could run a slightly less amount of air pressure in this side than the other side and be fine. So anyway, I'm not going to worry about it. So I put the worn tires, the used worn tires on this side, and I'm going to put the brand new tires on the other side because they should be a little bit taller, and that may take care of our little issue right there without having to do anything any further. If it looks like it's going to be an issue, maybe we'll look into it in the future or something, but I think it's not going to be an issue and probably will never be noticed. So anywho, let's get these tires here mounted. These are 16 by 8 wheels, and these are the same wheels that I ordered for the 5610 tractor over there that I cut the centers out and moved, that I've never got tires for, but they're right there. We painted them white, And anyway, it's the same wheels, and the offset on them is correct for this application right here. And so anyway, let's get these mounted up and get them put on there so we can see what this thing looks like. One thing about using these wheels here is they do not have a bead on them like a truck wheel in order to keep the tire on there, so the air pressure kind of keeps the tire on there. You can use a tube in this, would be better if you're going to use it for real low air pressure situations. But as long as you keep 30 or 40 pounds in it, it should be fine. And it's a cheaper way to do it is mount it tubeless. And as I say, you shouldn't have any problems as long as you keep air in it. But if you let it sit outside and go flat, the tire will easily pop off the bead, and then you'll have to jack it up and go through all that. Whereas if you had a tube in it, you could just put air in it. So anyway, let's get these things mounted up, get them on there. My bucket of tire soap right here. And get it all over everything. Hopefully these air up pretty easy. I had trouble with one of those other tires over there. Get this thing to start on here. Not even going to go on the first side. Not want to go on there. There we go. Go one side. Alright, we got that one on there. We get some air in the air kind of now. I have a different kind of air hose here. I got a big fitting hooked to a smaller hose like that, and it goes to a small fitting for certain things. And then on my air gauge here, I have a really big fitting to hook in this big hose so I can get more airflow into the tire. This may not happen on the first time here, but with no bead, that thing has to come up pretty quick, and then you have to have enough air volume going in there to keep it up, or it'll fall right back down. Didn't work. Try again. I'm going to try this with this thing standing up here, because as you see, we have a really large gap on each side. You see how big a gap we got here. So I'm going to try to do this with it standing up and see. Sometimes you have better luck doing it that way. Try different things until we get it to work. It may make more sense for me to rotate this down, like that. And the tire's probably going to fall over when I do this. That didn't work either. Alright, so I flipped the tire back down on its side, and I had this hose hooked to a regulated air supply. I disconnected it from that, hooked it straight to the tank, and so we'll have more volume and pressure coming through here. I also was able to fill that up to 120 there instead of 100 beforehand, so we'll have a little bit more air coming out of the tire cannon there as well. So let's give this another shot. That thing is not wanting to cooperate at all. Might have to go to plan B here. No, I don't want it to work any way I do it. All right, we're going to opt for plan B. All right, y'all ready for plan B? This is plan B right here. Plan B. Plan B works. That may have been just a tad much ether. All right, guys, we're gonna try this bead cheater on this tire here one time. And if it don't work, then we're gonna go back to the old method there, the way I used to do it. This thing works good most of the time on most tires. It doesn't seem to be working very well on these. And I may could put a block of wood. Let me try putting a block of wood under it, see if that helps. Sometimes you put a block of wood up under the wheel and that will help. We'll see. If that is the case on this one. Sometimes you can do that right there and it'll help make it work. That's a big gap. Oh, it did the trick that time. Like I say, that thing works pretty good most of the time. It was wanting to give some issues. I'm gonna go put about 45 pounds in these, something like that. I think that's all we'll need. 40, 45. Not like we're going down the highway with a load on it. And I want it to be, you know, a kind of a low pressure tire. And that being a radial tire so that it'll flatten out on the bottom and have a little bit of a footprint to it and not have a bunch of compaction sinking in the ground. All right, that's 45 pounds in it. I'm gonna leave it right there. I think that will be good enough. All right, guys, we are putting this thing on here now. I'm putting some anti-seize on these lug bolts here. Some of these lug bolts are not in the best condition. And I really should replace them, but I don't have any right now. So I'm gonna use these. Anyways, I think this one aired up so good because we scared it with the other one when I did it when it didn't want to air up. I'm sure that's probably what the deal was. See how the other one got treated there. Can't wait to see what that looks like on the when I edit the video. See how high that tire and wheel jumped off the concrete, because I'm sure it did. I had my head turned the other way because I had a feeling that might be just a tiddly bit much ether for such a small tire. Used to do it with 18-wheeler tires, and it takes a little more with those. Anti-seize, that stuff gets everywhere. Good thing the wheel's silver. We're using silver anti-seize because it's going to be everywhere. Got that one on there. Let's put the other one on there real quick. We'll take a look at it. All right, there it is with all the tires on it. I think that's a pretty good size tire for that. That's a, like I say, 285 75/16 is equal to pretty much a 33 by 11 or 32.8 by 11 or something like that. It's really close to a 33/11. Anyway, like I say, put the ones with the more tread over there. That's going to equal out for the spindle difference there I showed earlier, and should work okay, I think. So now all we're waiting on is stuff to make the drawbar with. I believe this thing here is finished. Got the hitch on it and everything. The bolts that they had at Tractor Supply were a little bit too long right there, so I had to kind of make that work. But anyway, you see the cutting edge down there, what I was talking about it was warped. You can see it doesn't touch flat on the corners. About 8 inches or so from each end, it kind of curls up, but it's going to work and it'll get straighter, I'm sure, as that cutting edge wears. That cutting edge is actually a little bit too curved, in my opinion, but I think it's going to work. I guess we'll see. Hopefully, get a chance to try this thing out at some point here. But yeah, she's looking pretty good there. Looks a lot more beefy with those big tires on there. So anyway, I guess that's it for this video. And waiting on drawbar. Then hopefully I'll have a video, something about that, and then something about this thing in action maybe. So if you want to see that, stick around and hopefully I'll have something coming. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.